Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to the Falkirk Council Scrutiny Committee, Tuesday 3rd of December. Agenda item 1, apologies.
Good morning. We've got apologies from Deputy Provost Balfour, Councillor Patrick and Councillor Aitchison. And Councillor Brown will be joining us, but she's delayed slightly.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members should declare any financial and non-financial interest they have in any item of business, identifying the relevant agenda item and the nature of the interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? No.
Could just maybe remind members to make sure the microphones are on mute when they're... So ask members to make sure their mine was on mute. Put their microphones on mute when they're not talking. We're getting some feedback from members online.
Agenda item 3, minute of the meeting of Scrutiny Committee held on the 12th of November 2020. Pages 2 to 18 of your...
Sorry, I'm just checking with everybody what's happening. Sorry about...
And okay. So, agenda item 3, the minute, pages 2 to 15 in your agenda papers. Can we agree the minute?
There's a problem I have with the minutes. The committee asked that we wanted further information in CAMS, and particularly what the waiting time is for children that's waiting for CAMS within the care for community. We got an answer back saying that all referrals to this service receive a prompt response. I don't find that satisfactory. We want an actual figure. What is the waiting time for these kids? So can we chase that up on that, please?
Thanks, Councillor Kelly.
We'll pick that up, Convener. I should also say that there's an error in the minute in that we haven't recorded Councillor Robertson's presence at the last meeting. So we'll rectify that and apologise to Councillor Robertson.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, rolling action log. Mr. Perry.
Thanks, Convener. That's simply to say there's 2 reports outstanding on the rolling action log. It's the roads maintenance and the BND report, both of which were scheduled for this meeting and both of which are at this meeting, so they'll come off the rolling action log after this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 5, roads performance report, pages 18 to 31 in your agenda papers, and it'll be David.
Good morning, folks. So this report aims to provide an update on the performance of road services in relation to planned, routine and reactive maintenance since the previous report was presented at Scrutiny Committee on December 14th, 2023. Within that previous report, road services highlighted improvements in road condition due to additional funding approved in the 2020-21 budget. However, the capital budget for 2023-24 was reduced back to baseline levels at £3.5 million. Which was noted as insufficient to address the maintenance backlog, estimated at around £35 million, or to maintain a steady state and condition. The report highlighted some key performance metrics, how the previous capital funding was invested into the network for maintenance of carriageways, footways and street lighting. The underperformance and reactive defect repairs and gully cleaning maintenance were reported, primarily due to staffing and budget constraints. And street lighting had made significant improvements through a successful LED conversion programme, reducing energy consumption significantly and improved fault repair rates. It was agreed at that Scrutiny Committee that a follow-up report would be brought forward in June 2024, detailing the steady state investment figure to inform future budgets, and a further performance report brought forward to Scrutiny Committee in December 2024, with improvements anticipated in defect repairs and gully cleaning. The Council approved an additional £4 million for roads and an extra £2 million for flooding and drainage works in the 2024-25 capital budgets. Therefore, it was agreed that there was no need to return to committee to discuss future funding in June, and everything would be captured within this December report. An update on progress since the last report is provided within this report, firstly noting how the service has overcome some of its challenges, such as filling key vacancies through internal promotions and external recruitment, and how external contractors have been engaged to reduce live defects in the road network and enhance gully cleaning efforts, improving overall service performance. So in terms of defects, As noted within table 4.1 of the report, there has been an improved performance on most key performance indicators, especially in carriageway priority 1 defect repairs, despite challenges remaining in responding to priority 2 defects. However, our quick response team and an external repair squad reduced live defects on the road network from around 1,200 to about 450. That was at the time of writing the report. I believe that that's reduced to around 200 now. And this will help improve focus on priority 2 defect performance. In terms of planned capital maintenance, the planned capital resurfacing programme was reduced last financial year due to the baseline budget of 3.5 million. And the report details how this was invested into the network, covering 15 kilometres of carriageway, which equates to only 1.5 of the overall road network length. Whilst Falkirk's road condition score is still outperforming the Scottish national average, there may be a slight stalling in these scores when updated figures are published due to the return to baseline levels in 2023-24. However, it is anticipated that improvements will be seen again following the additional investment this year. As noted in section 4.7 of the report, the approved budget allows for a total of 50 kilometres of carriageway to be treated this year, and this level of investment is vital in maintaining the condition of the network to an acceptable standard. And further to that, the additional capital funding for drainage works has allowed for a programme of gully replacements and drainage improvement schemes to be developed that will tackle known problem sites and address historic flooding issues on the network. A reserve of 150,000 was allocated for routine gully cleaning, enabling the formation of an additional in-house team and hiring an external contractor to address the backlog. As shown in table 4.2, at the time of completing the report, over 23,000 gullies, which is 65% of the overall gully network, had been cleared in the first 6 months of the year. This significantly surpasses any previous annual totals over the past 6 years, with a full network cleanse expected by March 2025. It is appreciated that continuous additional funding from revenue is not financially sustainable long term, and it is proposed that once a historic picture is built up of each gully through a series of full network cleanses, a move to a risk-based, data-led approach will optimise gully maintenance by prioritising those most in need. And this is just one example of how the integration of digital technology is enhancing management efficiencies and handling customer inquiries and operational tasks within the service. In terms of street lighting is still performing well in terms of the LED conversion programme, which is now 99% complete and is awaiting the completion of the Westfield roundabout works to fully complete that conversion. It has been identified through drafting an annual stats and options report for lighting that current capital funding levels are approximately 1.5 million per year lower than that required to maintain our lighting stock in a steady condition, meaning that the number of columns that exceed their estimated service life will surpass 50% by 2043. The report also includes information on the recent public consultation as part of the financial strategy report, which noted that from those that responded, road maintenance was considered as the most highly valued service within the council and the top service that should be protected. The report concludes by outlining the current 5-year baseline capital budget figures of between 3.5 and 3.7 million annually, as well as the calculated steady state investment figure of 7.7 million, which should be considered in any future budget decision making. And that is a summary of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, David. I've got a question. Roads maintenance was voted as the most highly valued service, as you've just said, within the council, voted on by the public. So it's clear that without sufficient funding, the road network will not be improved. What's the service's understanding of the likely budget for 25-26?
Yeah, as outlined within the report, give me a second, within the financial section, we have 3.58, 3.65, 3.65 and 3.73. That's over the next 4 years. And as noted within the report as well, we're currently calculating our steady state figure as 7.7 million annually.
But you don't know if you'll have any increase?
Not at this current time, no.
Okay. My next question is, the report states that an annual 7.7 million capital investment programme is required solely to maintain the road network. The current 5-year budget forecast indicates the roads capital budget will return to less than 4 million over the next 4 financial years. What will be the impact of this? What steps are being taken to mitigate the impact? And the report notes there's a £35 million backlog in roads maintenance treatment. How is that going to be tackled? So what steps are you going to take to sort of mitigate the reduction in capital and the backlog maintenance?
Yes, so over the past 14 years, Falkirk Council, along with all other Scottish local authorities, have been involved in the Scottish Road Asset Management Plan and how we prioritise the road network. So I feel that we already have robust processes in place and how to highlight and get best value out of the current funding. However, the facts are that all we can do just now is manage a decline as steadily as we possibly can if we don't have the steady state figures that we need for investment. I'll let Malcolm come in.
Thank you, Provost. I would just also say that clearly we have the council's budget setting process approaching, and my service is doing absolutely everything it can to update and provide information to elected members so that the elected members can take an informed decision when it sets that budget. So this report is part of that journey in terms of highlighting the shortfall, and obviously it's within the gift of elected members when setting their budget in February to decide whether to allocate additional funds or not to roads. So I just want to sort of give the impression that we are being proactive and on the front foot to, we clearly believe there is an argument for additional funding to go to roads, but obviously that is needed to be considered as part of the overall mix of the budget decisions that councillors face.
Councillor McCabe.
Thanks, convener. First of all, thanks, David, for a good comprehensive report. I'm pleased with it, but I'm not pleased with it because all you've done is you've bumped it back to councillors to make this difficult decision, taking on board what Mr. Benny's said. Throughout the report, you talk about the steady state, and I totally accept that, that figure of £7.7 million, I think it is, and it appears that with the current figures that we are potentially proposing, you're always going to have this shortfall. So that is the problem for us as the elected members, something that I'm not looking forward to trying to resolve, but I take on board. I mean, it's a very good case you make for additional investment within the roads. If I can, I picked up on just going through the report at 3.3. 3.3, we talk about the steady state. 3.8, you mentioned additional funding that was involved. 4.25 was to do with lighting columns only. Let me just check. Yeah, can I just maybe just give me a wee bit more information on this one, David? Maintaining the lighting columns, there is going to be 1.5 more than the baseline required. If you don't get that, what does that physically do? What's the impact on that? I'm just looking at this as one example within the whole roads budget, but what does that impact mean to lighting columns? Are we in danger of these things falling over, or are we in danger of them not working? Just a wee bit of an explanation.
Yeah, thanks, councillor. Yeah, it's effectively that. It's similar with roads as it is for lighting. If we're not replacing lighting columns at the time that they need to be replaced, then there's obviously a safety implication with that. So they're surpassing their expected service life. Similarly with a road, if you leave a road longer than what it should be, the cost of repair to that road is significantly higher because you need to go into the deeper layers. Similarly with lighting columns, we obviously need to undertake structural testing within each of our lighting columns. And we have a very good street lighting team, as we have a very good roads team who are analysing this data constantly. So if there's any emergencies, we obviously take care of that and we manage our risks appropriately. However, that provides a bigger risk in that we're not investing enough capital into this infrastructure to maintain it in an acceptable condition. So it poses a bigger risk, but like I say, we are well on top of any emergency repairs that are required.
Thanks for that, David. That whole safety element, I'm not going to, I'm aware that some of my colleagues will be probing a wee bit deeper on it. They'll be looking into things like the legal implications if we don't carry out this maintenance, you know, are we legally? But I'll let my colleagues come in at the back of that. I think that's just about me, Provost, other than at 6.2, there's just a wee comment that just jumped out at me. The road network requires sustained increased investment. We are not actually maintaining a level of investment. You know, we should be increasing it and it needs to be sustained. We're quite the reverse of that. It's not your problem, it's our problem. Thanks for that. Thanks, David, I appreciate it. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Councillor McCabe. We'll now go to Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Provost, and thanks, David, for that excellent report. I want to focus on the gully cleaning. I was really impressed in hearing the information before about the number of gullies you've cleaned, which is quite significantly higher, and that's very, very impressive. I have a few questions really related to that. To my mind, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there are not three categories of gullies, but the three areas. There's the gullies that you manage on the main roads, etc. There's the gullies which are managed in the housing estate by the housing department. And I believe there is a third category of gullies, those that, and I don't know what the word is, but that have been closed off, i.e. temporarily or permanently taken off the books. I just wondered if you were able to give me an idea of the numbers related to those three different categories, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Councillor. Yes, it makes sense. I don't have the figures for any housing gullies or any third-party gullies, but in terms of road services and what we're responsible for maintaining, it's contained within the report. I don't know the number exactly, but it's over 35,000 gullies within our network that we are required to cleanse. It's on the adopted public road network, but unfortunately I don't have the information for any other number of gullies.
Right, and are you saying that there aren't gullies that, you know, that will never ever be cleaned because they're technically closed off the books, as it were? Is that true?
Well, there will be third-party gullies for different pieces of land that will go into any of the kind of main drainage systems. And like I say, I can't speak for third-party gullies or currently housing gullies, but I'm not aware of any gullies within the public road network that we class as shut off. If it's on the network, it should be a live gully, and if it's not currently a live gully, then that needs to feed into our drainage prioritisation list for a proper investigation as to whether that gully needs to be re-established because it's just full of silt, or whether we need to potentially move location. So there's no gullies within the public road network that should be classed as shut off as such.
Okay, thank you. My next question really, or point really, relates to your plan, which I think is a very good plan, subject to obviously finance, that the gully cleaning is monitored over 2 years to give a picture of which gullies really need re-cleaned, because obviously a lot of gullies haven't been cleaned, not a lot, but some gullies haven't been cleaned for a number of years and the silt is built up, but that doesn't mean it's the same amount of silt. And I'm also impressed by, and I've evidence in my ward where you've tackled areas where there's been significant flooding. One area is the Bellsite Road, where we're all obviously a lot of flooding and heavy rain, and that's been rectified. I just wonder, and this is a difficult question possibly to answer, because of the extra cleaning of gullies, there has to be a payback. In other words, your department, the roads department, will not necessarily be called out for emergencies so much. Over time, will you be able to quantify financially what that saving might be, i.e. by comparing historical data?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. That's exactly it, yes. So We have had a live gully system called Web Information Publisher. It's been live since 2021. Since I rejoined Roads in June 2022, I know that previously the intention was to move to a risk-based approach and focus on those most in need. However, when I reviewed the system, there was a large portion of gullies on this live system that hadn't been cleaned since the system went live. So I was finding it difficult to understand how we could undertake a risk-based approach when we didn't have any data for a large portion of the gullies on the network. So the proposals just now is to, obviously this year we're getting we're on course to undertake a full cyclical clean of all gullies. If we can build up another 2 years worth of data, we're then able to use that data, and through our asset management processes, we're able to focus on those gullies that are most in need, and that's when we would be able to quantify what gullies need to be cleaned once or even twice a year, and what gullies could be cleaned once every 2 years due to the historic build-up of silt levels within each of those, because obviously with the existing environment that surrounds them, each gully will have its own unique issues. So through that process, we will be able to understand if there is still flooding issues on the main network. We would be able to create flooding routes. So if we know that there's a flood event coming in, then we could prioritise those sort of flooding routes. But also, just through our routine work, we would be able to quantify the amount of gullies that need cleaned and the timeframes in which they need cleaned. So once we get through this, through a few full cycle cleans, I feel that we'd be able to really quantify how much we could save. Currently, in order for us to get through this full cyclical clean, we need 3 full-time gully motors on the road network at all times, or not all times, but for the majority of the network, for the majority of the year, to undertake that full cleanse. So that it's very resource heavy in order to continuously do a full cyclical clean every year. So that's definitely the intention, to be able to quantify the savings that we could make.
Thank you very much for that positive view. Thank you, and thank you, Provost.
Thanks very much, Councillor Flynn. We'll now go to Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, David, for that report. Very interesting. David, can I just pick up on what Councillor McCabe has said about the gullies? You've stated that they're being cleaned more regular than that, and yet I'm not seeing that in my area, the Upper Braes area. There's been years gullies haven't been cleaned up here, and especially in relation to what you've said regarding hotspots with flooding areas that we're seeing more and more often because of inclement weather. Gullies haven't been cleaned up here for years, David. We're also seeing areas where, being reported, where the footpaths are in a terrible state and have not been fixed for years. So is there any way, I'm going to ask a question to you, and you can basically tell me what your answer is here. The report states that there are no legal implications arising from this report. The Road Scotland Act 1984 places a statutory duty on local authorities to manage and maintain roads. Are there legal implications for Falkirk Council should the funding not be acquired to maintain the road network? And subsequently, is it now a risk-based approach to prioritise areas within the system to meet legal requirements?
Thank you, Councillor. So firstly, as noted within the report, we are on course for a full cyclical cleanse for gullies this year. So all gullies within the full public road network will be cleared this year. So the Upper Braes will be tackled. In terms of our legal obligations, yes, we do have a statutory duty under the Road Scotland Act to maintain our roads in a safe condition. Depending on the funding levels will depend on the strategy to do that. Yes, we always need to go with a risk-based approach in how we maintain our network, and that's what the Road Asset Management Project has brought in, is to look at how we strategically use the monies that we do have to maintain the network in the best possible condition. But the implications are, if we don't have funding to maintain an acceptable condition of road network, there will be more potholes in the road. More potholes in the road will create bigger risks to injury to road users, but also it will create a bigger financial risk to the council and paying out more claims. So that there's a load of risks if we don't maintain it to an acceptable condition. And if we don't have a increased capital funding, then we would have to look at how we are managing our defect repairs a lot more thoroughly, and what resources we can put into defect repair rather than capital resurfacing, because capital resurfacing allows us to tackle a lot of potholes on the road network through the capital funding. And so yes, there is risks both financially, reputationally, and obviously for road users.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Councillor Robertson. We'll now go to Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. The first question I want to ask you, David, good morning, of argument I'm here. Page 2310, about staffing. We seem to have a very high turnover, high absence. Why is this? And can I say it's not only your department, it tends to be council-wide this?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, we've done a bit of market research with other local authorities as well, and we all seem to be on a very similar boat in terms of staff turnover. I know personally when I was younger coming through Falkirk Council, it was very difficult for us to get posts because people were steady within posts, and since returning to the local authority environment, I've seen personally a lot of turnover in staff. But it's the same with recruitment. It's very difficult for when we're getting staff leaving to replace those staff with highly competent people. And I don't think it's just local authorities. I think it's just particularly within our area of the civil engineering environment. There seems to be industry-wide big skills gaps. And when people are retiring, we're losing a lot of knowledge, and it's very difficult to replace that. I know that myself and my colleague David, we started as trainees together, and I think the next person up from us when we started was at least 18 years older than us at the time. So we knew from a very early age that there was a big skills gap, and we're seeing that industry-wide. In terms of absence, there's a heightened presence on us now, not just within roads, but for the whole of the council, and particularly within environment and operations, to look at absence management. So there's full reviews on what the main factors are for absence management. And I must say my roads colleagues have been really good at understanding and dealing with absence management, but there's a whole host of reasons for various individuals. But we're looking at digital technology to help us understand and manage that as well. So we have the likes of the Power BI tool internally that can help us identify the main causes for our absence within the roads, and look at if there's any safety implications or if there's any risks that we need to update a risk assessment. So I know that may sound like a bit of a roundabout answer, but there's a whole host of reasons why our absence management is so high. But just to reassure you that we do have a lot of good tools internally that's helping us improve those numbers.
Thanks. We're talking about high staff turnover. Who does exit interviews when people are leaving? Do we do them?
We do them. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I know that we do them within roads, within my other services in engineering and transport. And it will usually be the manager. Sometimes it will be the coordinator. It will depend on the person who's leaving or the position that's leaving. But we tend to do that between our coordinators and our managers. Yeah.
I was wondering if it was HR that would do that sort of interview, but you actually do it in-house.
Yeah, we do, but we can liaise with HR on these sort of matters as well, and we can obviously pick up within these exit interviews if there's a pattern within why people are leaving. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. The service operated without a permanent road service manager for about 2.5 years now. Do we really need that position at all if we're managing without it?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we absolutely need it. So David Garvin to my right here. David is currently the acting roads manager. So David has filled in the position of roads manager since February this year. And his substantive post is the area engineer for the operations side within roads. And David's been with Falkirk Council since 2005, so he's in with the fabric of the road service as well, so he knows it inside and out. And I've noticed myself, obviously, since the new restructure within environment and operations and taking over roads again, when I didn't have the roads manager compared to the support that I get now. And given how vital the service is, the roads manager position is a very, very vital position within the council.
So we'll be having full-time manager soon then?
Yes, the aim is to put the permanent position out to advert at the very early in the new year.
And that includes in-house, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Another thing on the road defect numbers have risen from 6,000 to 9,000 in a year. Why? Why does that happen? Surely, it should be picked up by the area roads officers rather than have people phoning in. I take it this 9,000 is reports from the public.
Yes, that in the customer expectation section, I think it's 4.2. Yeah, it's just detailing that these are transactions that are coming in from the public in terms of reported defects. There can be a whole host of reasons why the reported number goes up. There could be multiple people reporting the same defect, or it could be a harsher winter where we're getting more calls in. But the positive trend in that is the figure 4.1 within that section, how although the reported number is going up, our actionable defects are on a steady downwards trend. So that's the positive. And we also note within that, there's a big impetus in us to embrace digital technology, and we're trying to look at ways in how we can embrace digital technology for these, so any duplicate defects are caught at source rather than taking up so much officer time to close off the duplicate defects. So that's still in process. Like I say, the overall positive area of this is the fact that our actionable defects are decreasing.
Excellent. Thanks very much,
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Kelly. We'll now go to Councillor Forrest.
Thank you, Convener. And thank you, David. That's a very thorough report so far. The report notes that 24-25, 94% of the street lighting faults have been repaired within the 5 working days. Now, that's very positive. It's a great achievement. How's that going to be maintained going forward, given the challenges faced by the service? That's my first question. I'll get you the next one after.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, similarly with roads and lighting, they're all part of the road asset management planning process. So we will look to put resources in where required, and this is street lighting strong performance has been consistent over a number of years. It was only a few years ago we were winning national APSI street lighting awards. So there's street lighting are a high performance service. Yes, of course, that coincides with capital investment, and if you maintain a steady condition in capital investment, then there is not as much faults being reported. So obviously, if that continues, if the current levels of funding continue and we see a bigger decrease in the lighting condition, then we would obviously need to consider the resources again that we're putting into the repair of these lighting defects. Similar to the question I answered for Councillor Robertson, we would need to look at our resources and mitigate against reduced capital funding in order to ensure that we are maintaining a steady condition within the or focusing on emergency repairs rather than capital investment. So there's a whole host of ways that we can develop and change our strategy depending on funding levels.
Thank you. You say that there's not been so many faults being reported, and at the same time, I have noticed in my own street especially that the street lights have been replaced from the old halogen to the LED. And you surprised me when you said that we were up at 99% changeover already, which is fantastic. We were always told that changing our own light bulbs, etc., was not just more economical, but I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes, loud and clear. Hello? Yes. Gordon? Aye. So we'll go to Councillor Binney, where we're trying to get Councillor Forrest back.
Thank you, Provost. I just want to say thanks, David, for this report. And also I want to say thank you to all the staff who's involved in the roads. And that's also from my community, and that doesn't get said too often. What I want to ask actually touches on what Councillor Kelly had said or had asked, but a little bit further with my questions. At the meeting of the Scrutiny Committee on December the 2023, staffing issues were noted as a concern for the service, especially staff absence. How has this been managed? I think you touched on it lightly. You never mentioned, has it improved in a year? The budgetary pressures, obviously we're moving forward to a new budget year that's going to come about, and obviously recruitment challenges. So my question is, can you please update on any mitigations? For example, the processes to help the staff back to work and the budgetary pressures. Obviously, as I said earlier, this is unknown at present, but going forward, I always like to find out, you know, we rely on money coming from governments. Is there any external funding that we can hope to achieve? Obviously, for example, is there any funding that comes from other councils? Because I have heard in the past that we have done work for other councils. So is that funding, I don't know the process, that comes directly into us? So my main question is, how can we improve on all of this? Do we have a forward plan? You spoke about a plan. Is it joined up? Do we have... There's a lot of unknowns going to be happening, and the main thing is resources. Do we have illustrations of predicted outcomes and improvements? So that's my question. Thank you. Thank you, Provost.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Councillor. There's a lot to digest in that question, so just pick me up if I've not covered anything. Firstly, on you touched on absence management. As I was speaking to Councillor Kelly, that is a main focus within, particularly within our environment and operations management team meetings. There is a heightened focus on that within our individual team meetings. We work closely with HR on our managing sickness absence policy, and yes, there's a, you know, within roads we have a full database in terms of managing our absence. We look at the individual, we look at the causes for it, if it's work related, if it's not work related, how we can help get that person back to work. But there's also different stages within the management sickness absence policy where you go through absence monitoring and get support in any way that we can possibly give the individual support to get them back to work. But like I say, there is a very thorough process, and we get significant help from our HR colleagues in dealing with that. I know that even this year we've certainly seen an improvement within the percentage of absence within roads. So it has been managed, and like I say, there is a robust policy and support in place for that. In terms of income from other councils, so as part of, yes, this takes it away from the capital funding side of things, but our roads operations team do a significant portion of work outside of our capital resurfacing works. They don't just work internally. We do significant works for other services within Falkirk Council, so our housing service, our building maintenance service, children's services. You know, we do a plethora of work throughout the internal council. However, we have recently done significant works for other local neighbouring local authorities in terms of road resurfacing works or fencing works. So that option is definitely there, and we are looking at this. Obviously, we know that there's a significant financial gap for the council to find over the next few years. As part of our transformation programme that roads are involved in, we're certainly looking at all of those sort of aspects in terms of income generation as well as our expenditure. So it's not just about making savings as such, it's about could we potentially bolster resources to undertake more external works to get more income. So that's constantly discussed, particularly within the road service and within our operations team. And like I say, if I've missed anything, then I'm happy to pick up.
I was just going to say, so do we have a forward plan, with illustrations, the world's kind of unpredictable, money's, resources is unpredictable, with outcomes and improvement. And I think you have actually spoken in the report about that. Maybe I'm asking too much with that question. Obviously, we don't know what the budget's going to be for next year and obviously the year after. So that might make a big change to the service. So I'm just wondering, do you have a forward plan? Like knowing we're going to improve on staffing numbers, we're going to improve on budget, we're not going to improve on budget, we're going to improve on recruitment, that sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, we have a full workforce plan within roads and within other services. So we're currently looking at our workforce planning. We're looking at our age demographic of our staff. We're looking at forward planning for our staff. Looking at we've introduced a new trainee competence framework to bring our trainees on and become more skilled. So there's a whole host of things that we're doing in terms of planning for the future. As well as part of our transformation of environment and operations savings project within roads and engineering, we're looking at our organisational structure and how we could best set ourselves up for better future delivery. And it's like I just touched on there in terms of roads. Could we bolster certain resources to look at more of a income generation type scenario? So we're looking at different scenarios in terms of how we make our resources and how we make our service more robust for a more sustainable future. So there is a whole host of, we've already touched on absence management, but also the workforce planning and any skills shortages, as well as our savings programme and how we could set up organisationally. But yes, there is always unknowns in terms of funding elements that come in, and it's trying to look at different business models in order to set yourself up to be best placed to deal with that.
Thank you very much, David. Appreciate that. Thank you, Provost.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Binney. I'll go to Mr. Benny before I go back to Councillor Forrest.
Thank you, Provost, and thank you for the question, Councillor Binney. I just wanted to come in to give reassurance that I've got full confidence in Douglas and David in the efforts that they're making to transform the services, but the shortfall that's identified within the report of circa £3 million of investment, that won't be possible to be made up from within the team. The team can do so much, and they can attract additional funds by taking on extra roles and jobs, but it won't fix that structural kind of shortfall, and that's something that we do need to talk as a sort of wider council in terms of the budget planning.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to Councillor Forrest.
Thank you, Convener. I got cut off in my prime there.
I know.
Sorry, David. I was saying that when you're probably too young to remember this, but when LED first came along, we were all told, "Oh, change over to LED. It's far more economical, longer lasting, etc." Now that we're approaching 100% LED lighting in the streets, are we finding that there is actually a saving, both in energy and because they're longer lasting, we don't have as many faults?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I mean, if you look at section 4.22 of the report, as detailed within that, especially when you look at our energy consumption, we've went from 10.5 million kilowatt hours in 2014-15, and through this LED conversion, we're now at 4.4 million kilowatt hours in 23-24. So there's been a significant reduction in our energy consumption as well as our CO2. So that's went from 4215 to 941. And the last sentence within section 4.22 states that the annual costs that we've saved over a 10-year period would actually cost us circa 2 million more than the current running costs. So there's actually significant savings through this LED conversion programme. And the fact that we've got to our 99% and we're just waiting on Westfield Roundabout, that means our full network will be fully converted to LED And I know what you mean. You know, that there's new technologies that come on the market all the time, and we need to understand what those new technologies are and if they would provide further savings. But obviously, each of those would have a capital investment cost to transfer to that. But I think the current conversion to LED and the savings that we're making just now is a real good news story.
It is indeed. That's why I asked. One last thing. A lot of our road networks are still covered by Scottish Power. The one very close to me is Lethallen, which there's a fault there, which I've been told is the responsibility of Scottish Power. Now, this major roundabout has been without lights in the evening for at least 10 days. How quickly do our partners, Scottish Power, respond normally?
I think firstly, we do have a good working relationship with utility companies. You know, we've got the Scottish Roadworks Register that we coordinate all of the roadworks, whether it's Scottish Water, Scottish Power, whoever. And we do generally have a good working relationship. They usually are relatively quick at responding to these sort of issues. And in terms of a single operational issue, I probably couldn't answer that specific question. But in general terms, Scottish Power, we work very well with Scottish Power, and they're generally relatively quick.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's just when we say that 94% of all our lighting is repaired within 5 days, it's a shame that when it's responsibility of another party, it can't be done to the same standard as we do. Thank you for that, David.
Thanks,
Thank you, Convener.
Thanks, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Forrest. We'll now go to Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. I'll just come back online. Thank you, Convener. David, the report states there are no direct risks, impacts arising from this report. However, the content of the report suggests that the service will struggle to deliver its functions within the allocated budget and schedule. In addition, facing ongoing challenges in financial sustainability and sustainable growth, these are significant risks identified as high within the Council's corporate risk register. Can you provide more information on the risks arising from the report and the controls in place to mitigate these risks? And what risks have been identified, David?
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I mean, I think the risks are contained within the report. There is a risk, as noted, that lack of particular steady state funding will result in, and I think similar to the last question you asked, there's a risk financially, reputationally, and a risk to road users if there is less levels of investment within the road network. So the report is really to outline how the road service will best use the resources that we have to hand in terms of personnel and funding, but also given that there is a risk of steady decline in the road network, which will result in a increased risk within our claims department, within our reputation, and within, financially, not just the paying out of claims if there's more potholes in the road, but when we actually do come to surface a particular section of road, if it's left longer than where it should have been, then the depth of construction needs to be deeper, which means the cost is going to be higher. So there's not just a financial risk in paying out more claims, but actually the structural repair of the roads as well. And similarly with street lighting, the risk is similar in terms of if we're not replacing our lighting stock when they should be replaced, there is a higher risk of safety concerns for faulty structural lighting columns. But as I mentioned to Councillor McCabe earlier, there is a heightened presence in terms of our emergency repairs. So I think those are the main risks which are contained within the report.
Thank you, David.
Okay, thanks very much. Any other questions? Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd have the answer to this one. Do you know how much money comes in through developer costs through planning to your budget?
I don't have that figure. I know that there is developer contributions for certain things when new roads development sites are introduced. But in terms of the maintenance and how that comes in, I don't have the answer for
Is
that.
it a significant amount you get from?
I don't think so.
No.
And I would need to double check, but I think those developer contributions are more used for other things. And that could be play parks, it could be the introduction of new footways. But I don't think anything substantial comes into the actual road maintenance budget for that. Because when a new road development site comes on board, it then goes through once it's complete, it goes through a 12-month maintenance period where the developer is responsible for it. But then it then gets officially adopted into the road network, and it just becomes part of our responsibility to maintain after that process is complete. So I don't have any exact figures. I could come back to you on that offline.
That'd be good. It's just it doesn't seem fair that the developers are making profits of selling houses. And we're having to say, even on an A road, you put 200 extra houses. How many cars is that? Maybe 150, 200 cars going on that road. Or if we're in the instance of a quarry, for instance, where we're opening a new quarry, we have something like 240 journeys with heavy lorries breaking up A roads. It doesn't seem fair that there's no sufficient goes into the roads department for that. Anyway, thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thanks, Convener. Just following up on, it's a great point that Councillor Kelly makes. I'd be interested, David, if you could maybe just have a wee look in to see how much goes into your budget from, used to be called planning gain or whatever. I suspect it's not a lot. I think realistically we should be looking to improve or increase the developer contribution, particularly with roads. Wee question I just wanted to ask David, it's this steady state figure of 7.7. Is that the best offer you can give me? I mean, could you have another look at that? Could you come back and say 7 point? The reason I'm asking that is even a saving of, let's say, £200,000, that's per annum, you know. So I mean, it's compounded every year. Is that, the steady state investment figure has been calculated that there's no squeeze? And by the way, I doubt very much if there is, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, we're in the process of updating our current annual status and options report. Within that, we have, through the years, there was approved cost projection tools that were developed from Scots as part of the Road Asset Management Project. So what that does is it looks at different levels of investment. It looks at different treatments on the surface, so it could be surface dressing, it could be inlays or overlays. So it looks at how you intend to invest your money into the network, and it will give you a condition projection over a 20-year period. So when you look at our current levels of investment, you can see the steep deterioration, and then obviously if you put a lot more money in it, you can see the dramatic improvement of it. So the steady state figure, I do appreciate that it's a constant moving picture, because the better condition your network gets, the less intrusive treatments that you need to do on your road surface. So I do appreciate that it is a moving picture, and we're still waiting on the finalised update of this set of Scottish Road Maintenance Condition Survey, which will give us a road condition indicator, and we'll be able to do a lot of those analytical tools. I don't see it straying very far away from 7.7, but we can certainly come back with a more shored up figure once we've got the more publicised data. But like I say, we do appreciate that it is a moving picture, because even when we look at, I think it was a few years ago, 4 years ago, we were at 6.8, but because of inflation, it's pushing that up as well. So it's not necessarily just the condition deteriorating, it's the inflation aspect of that as well. The cost of materials has went through the roof as well. So there's a lot of different factors that will play into the movement of that steady state figure. But currently, I can't see a lot of movement away from 7.7.
Thanks very much, David. Thank you, Convener.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask, how are the roads inspected? I mean, how do we cover the whole network? How do we actually do that?
Thanks, Provost. So we have a published road survey manual. So through our asset management planning, we prioritise our road network based on our road hierarchy. So it's not your traditional classification, so your A class, B class, C class. Through the asset management project, we've dissected that and went into more detail. So we have the likes of our strategic routes, our main distributor routes, our secondary distributor down to local access. But in order for a piece of road to get a specific road hierarchy, there's a number of factors that go into that. So you look at, is it a route to a school, what the traffic volumes are, so it's more detailed than in your traditional road classification. So through that, our strategic and main distributor routes are built up. And then we survey the full network annually, but our strategic and main distributors will be surveyed on a monthly basis. And then we'll have our secondary and our secondary distributors on a quarterly, so a 3-monthly basis, and then our link of local access roads, which is your main residential streets, will be done annually. So the full network is covered annually, but our more strategic routes are covered on a monthly basis by our roads inspectors. Okay, and just on the gullies, see within the gully, is there a basket within the gullies as well, or is the baskets have got to be replaced, or is there no any baskets in them? Yeah, so you get different types of gullies and you get different types of gully pots. The older style Grahamston pots are kind of outdated and we're looking to replace them when we can. But effectively, you'll have a gully with a pot with an outlet pipe connected to it. But we're using our new kind of tablet data as well, that we're not just going and recording that the clean's been done, but we're recording how much those silt levels are filled before we clean it, so we can then build up that data against, is it 75% full every time we go, and does it need more attention, or is it 10% every time we go and we don't need to focus on that one as much? So yes, there is pots, and there's obviously it captures all the kind of debris before hopefully letting the water. So might there have been quite a number, since some hadn't been done for some time, where the whole pipework would have to be cleared out to get the flow going again. So that would take quite a bit of time. So in the future, that will not take so long. Absolutely. Since we're being so thorough to clear out the pipework as well. Absolutely. So there would have been gullies at this stage that, like I said previously, the system went live in 2021, and some of the gullies hadn't been cleaned since then. So yeah, there would have been some time our operatives had to dig the gully out, and then we'll usually jet the outlet pipe when we're there anyway, but there may have been more work involved in jetting that outlet pipe in order to get the system running again. But regular maintenance, like I say, if we can build up a number of cycles of regular cleaning, and then we can get the system working a lot better, it means that the time spent at each gully is going to be far reduced as well. And I'm sure it was Councillor Flynn that was answered earlier. That will help us understand what the efficiency savings are within these operations by moving to a more risk-based approach. Absolutely. And so if there's no other questions, I'd just like to say, again, it's another bonus report. Plenty of detail in it, and we see how things have improved over the past year. And given the budget pressures that we're facing, I think we're still making improvements. And we know that additional funding, it's quite clear, additional funding is required to maintain the steady state. But that'll be an issue for councillors to wrestle with come up to the budget meeting. But I'm glad that it's been raised here, so we've got a handle on it. But I would say, given the ongoing pressure and the value of the service to the public, I would, and I hope the committee does agree, that we would ask for a follow-up report in a year's time. Everybody okay with that? Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for coming along. And we'll take a 10-minute comfort break before we go to BMD. Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. Next item of business, agenda item 6, Building Maintenance Division Performance Report, pages 32 to 40 on your agenda papers, and we'll go to Mr. Gardner for that.
Thanks, Provost, and I would like to thank Robert, who joins me this morning, and the wider BMD team who have helped pull this report together. The purpose of the report is to provide Scrutiny with an update on the division's performance and outcome of the recent service review. Committee are asked to note the current performance levels and the progress made to improve the service delivery following the review. This report follows the performance paper that was presented to Scrutiny in December last year. The paper highlights the annual operating and capital budget, which totals circa 23 million. And represents one of the largest service budgets within the council. We have over 300 staff employed within the division, just under 200 of which are trade staff. As reported in last year's paper, the service has struggled to fill vacancies in recent years, and this could be partly attributed to a strong private sector offering higher wages and a national skills shortage. The service has also suffered from high absence rates and has an age profile averaging 53 years discounting our apprentices. Moving on to the performance part within the report, and firstly in voids, I'm pleased to report that as per section 5.2 of the paper, void turnaround times have significantly improved, falling from an average of 111 days reported in 22-23 down to 56 days. Much of this can be attributed to changes made to the void lettable standard, which reduces the level of internal decoration. This both speeds up the time taken to turn around void properties, as well as significantly reduce costs. As per section 5.3 of the paper, at the end of October, the number of void properties has reduced by almost a quarter since last year's report. Section 5.4 of the paper highlights the focus on voids and the temporary suspension of non-emergency repairs, helping to support families out of temporary accommodation. With reference to 5.5, there is a positive trend in relation to the average length of time taken to complete both emergency and non-emergency repairs. And as per indicator 8, average length of time taken to repair emergency repairs has improved by almost 1 hour, and non-emergency repairs has improved by over half a day. I would, however, highlight to committee that the current temporary suspension of non-emergency repairs will have an adverse impact on this indicator for the short term. 5.6 and 5.7 provides an update on disabled adaptations, with the number of DAs outstanding reducing by approximately 30%. As highlighted, DAs are funded through the Health and Social Care Partnership, and to free up trade staff for void and repairs, and to further improve performance, enabling tenants to be released earlier from NHS care and back into their own homes, it is proposed to deliver DAs jointly with an external provider. 5.8 of the report covers kitchen installations. They are overseen by colleagues within Housing Services via a framework agreement. And through this agreement, there is no outstanding kitchen installations. This is good news for tenants, and we're looking to deliver bathroom installations through a similar model. Through doing this, it's anticipated that this will continue the positive trend in outstanding bathroom installations, which have reduced by almost 30% since last year, as well as free up BMD trade staff to focus on void and repairs work. Lastly, on performance, section 5.10 confirms that our capital contract works, which largely consists of roofing and rough casting, are very much on track, and the service has been receiving positive feedback from tenants on these improvements. Section 6 provides members with an update on the service review, which you will recall was assisted through an independent advisor, ARC, a recognised industry expert. The purpose of the review was to carry out both a review of culture within the workplace, as well as an assessment of the division's strengths and weaknesses. Staff engagement, as well as engagement from other key stakeholders, including housing and trade union colleagues, was absolutely key to the review. Following the review, a paper was recently taken to corporate management team with a number of recommendations which enable improvement, taking cognizance of the challenges faced by the service. Sections 6.5 and 6.6 of the paper highlight how we're looking to strengthen the leadership team within BMD to support the service manager and to improve coordination and delivery of the service. Absolutely fundamental to the review is the upskilling of our trade teams through the introduction of bolt-on skills, helping the service to complete more repairs for our tenants on the first visit. So, for example, joiners will be given basic training in plumbing and vice versa. Realisation of these bolt-on skills develops the workforce, providing them with a skill set and competency to carry out a wider range of duties for council tenants. It improves efficiencies, it increases our resilience, it improves customer service and satisfaction. The majority of trade posts will be presented to a grading panel later this week, and subject to evaluation may result in an increased take-home salary. This would be closer to comparative posts out with the council. It's very much in line with delivery models within other local authorities and will aid the retention of current staff. Additionally, an increased salary would make the council more attractive when advertising and recruiting for future posts. It's proposed that the funding of the bolt-on skills will be met through the reduction of the current establishment and budgetary realignment. We're very much taking a long-term approach, and last year the service brought on 8 apprentices, followed by an additional 12 this year. This is the highest number of apprentices over the past 25 years within BMD services. The service recognises that there is no short-term solution to the current skill shortage, and we've taken the view to a longer-term solution in producing a skilled local workforce, which would be better supported through the proposed structure, providing a long-term investment in our service provision, reducing reliance on external contractors. ARC also carried out a light touch review of the contact centre and identified the need to improve the customer experience, both in terms of time taken to answer calls and correctly diagnosing the issue. However, pleasingly, since the external review, the performance of the contact centre has significantly improved, and as touched upon under section 11 of the report, to continue this positive trend, colleagues at the contact centre are proposing to introduce a diagnostics toolkit, assisting the handler to consistently, correctly identify the problem and the required action. Through sessions with the teams, there was an identified need for upskilling within the store section. Feedback suggested it was not fit for purpose, with materials not always arriving on site when they should, and this leads to a loss of productivity. Much of this unproductive time is down to weaknesses of current processes and software technology restrictions. ARC advised that across the UK, the stores market has diversified from the traditional in-house offer, and partnership with the private sector to deliver a high-tech managed store service is often the preferred approach, and this is reflected within the recommendation of a report that I took to the corporate management team. Given that we will be looking at a two-pay situation here, negotiations with staff and trade unions are absolutely essential, and we've already had initial discussions with staff and trade union colleagues. I did stress that this is not a redundancy situation, and the service will do its utmost to accommodate staff within suitable positions where available, as well as consider any VS applications. It would be our aspiration to have the new arrangement in place by October 2025. As per 6.16 of the report, to provide appropriate governance and to ensure all key stakeholders are kept fully up to date with this phased improvement plan, a project board made up of BMD staff, housing colleagues, as well as trade union colleagues will be established in the new year. Touching on finance, the changes will be met within the existing budget. We've also noted the positive financial impact following the adoption of the new void lettable standard. So, Chair, in conclusion, following last year's report, there has been a general positive trend in service delivery, and we believe that the forthcoming changes to the service will further enhance this, providing a service that best meets the needs of housing services and, most importantly, our tenants. I can also advise that we have undertaken sessions with all our teams within the division, and in general there's been a positive feedback from those teams and trade union colleagues. And that's a summary of the report, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr Gardner. I'd like to ask the first question. There was last December we agreed that a report would come forward in February, but that never came forward. Was that going to go to the executive?
Can you ask that question again, sorry, Chair?
Last December at Scrutiny, we were going to bring forward, asked for a report to come forward, but that was coming to, is that right?
Not quite, Convener. I think last December you were told that there was going to be a report going to the executive on the review, which was going to be around February time, and then you said, the committee said, given that, we'll ask for a report 6 months down the line, which is this report.
Right.
But you never asked for a report to go. I think maybe it was intended the review was going to be implemented earlier.
Right.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
I think, sorry, Chair, I think you're right. Brian's reminded me there. I think you were looking for a report, obviously a follow-up report to be brought to Scrutiny. But I understand that it was agreed that it would be appropriate to bring it to Scrutiny post the service review, which is, like Brian says, this report here.
Okay. I was just wondering how you said that the ARC report went to the corporate management team, but I've just wondered why we didn't get a heads up on the report. Why we've not seen the report, not seen the recommendations within the report. We've got a snapshot of some of the things, but certainly as a scrutiny committee, we've never seen the ARC report at all.
So the main findings and the recommendations from the ARC paper, Chair, are detailed within this report. In addition to that, we offered a series of briefing sessions with elected members, which pleasingly were quite well attended. So again, we went through the details of both the recommendations and how we're planning on meeting those recommendations over the next 12 months.
Okay, so we've got some of the recommendations that were agreed by ARC. Have all the actions been implemented yet, or still in the process, as you say?
So it's very much a staged approach, Provost. It's not a magic wand scenario here. It's a step-by-step approach. So over the following 12 months from now, I would expect the recommendations that you see in front of you today will be implemented.
Okay. So what barriers have been identified in implementing the actions?
I don't think there's been any barriers as such, Provost. I think one of the key elements to a successful delivery and transformation of the BMD service is communications, good communications. We already have improvement working groups within the service, both for trade staff and the admin team. And that's an excellent conduit for communicating changes and how we're bringing about changes. It's also an excellent conduit for us to receive feedback from members of the team, as well as trade union colleagues. I did mention within the paper as well, we are looking to establish a board that I'd imagine will be part of a wider BMD/housing board. This is very much part of the kind of wider housing review, which is ongoing just now. And through that board, that's how we'll implement and communicate changes and make sure that everyone is up to speed with what we're doing and what.
Okay, and how will success of the actions be measured? Will there be performance indicators?
So yeah, there are obviously key actions there. So I'd imagine there will be performance indicators as well as key actions identified, and that will be monitored by the board.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Binney.
Thank you, Provost. Thank you for this report as well, and thank all the staff as well for an increased performance. I'm sure that will be felt by everybody in their communities. It's really good to hear the improvement installing disablement adaptations and the improvement is 30%, and obviously that's down to all the staff. However, I know a change has been considered to deliver future service via a hybrid approach through BMD and an external provider. You say at this moment in time this will help further improvement performance. Can a detailed plan process be provided to Scrutiny? And I would expect, at this moment in time, the current good performance to continue until the joined up process is in place. So can you come back to Scrutiny in a reasonable time? I don't know what reasonable time. I don't know if we've considered how long this joined up process would take, either 6 months or 9 months, and let the Scrutiny Committee know about this joined up process, because it's very, very important, because we want to keep up the good work that BMD has already done, and see how the process is going to work and support our vulnerable residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binney, for the question. And yeah, I would fully anticipate the positive trend in DAs to continue. Absolutely not an issue in coming back to Scrutiny to provide you with an update with regards to where we are performance-wise. Obviously, the partnership approach that we're looking to adopt, that I've highlighted within the paper, would be subject to tender evaluation. So, it may be a case of coming back to Scrutiny in 12 months' time, once that has been fully implemented, to give us a better indication with regards to the success of the new model. But again, happy to do that, not a problem.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, I think we'd all be happy to see the new model, but whenever that is available, that is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Binney. We'll go to Councillor Kelly.
Aye, Douglas. I'm not sure if this question is for you or for Mr. Benny. I'm just new on Scrutiny, so I don't know what happened 18 months ago. BMD is mainly a repair and maintenance for housing. Can you tell me the logic behind splitting BMD from housing?
I can cover that, Councillor. So within environmental and operations, the majority of the services within E&O are a front-facing manual workforce, and BMD is very much front-facing manual type workforce, and for that reason, that's why it was decided to harmonise those services under the umbrella of E&O. But I should say that we do enjoy a very close working relationship with housing. We have regular conversations and regular meetings with Kenny Gillespie, who has housing within his remit. It's a working relationship that I think that works well, and I think that is proven. Hopefully, you'd agree with us through the performance update that I provided this morning.
I'm not too sure if it works well as two separate organisations. Anyway, following on for that, 4.3, I think I'm right in quoting, we have a manager supported by one service coordinator and 3 coordinators. And then if you go to 6.5, it says we have a service manager and a senior coordinator and 3 vacancies for 3 other coordinators. I'm not sure exactly what the position is here. Do we have 3 or 6 co-coordinators in it? Or
so at present, Councillor Kelly, we have the service manager, who's Robert. We have a senior coordinator, who's Kevin Mullen. Obviously, both those officers are currently in place. We've held vacant posts for the coordinator posts for, I think it says within the report, almost 2 years now. That's despite recruitment attempts. We've been unable to permanently appoint in there. What I would say is that we do have officers that are currently stepping into 2 of those coordinator roles, and they're doing a good job. But really, the management, the day-to-day management of the service is largely down to both Robert and Kevin. And longer term, that's not sustainable. And that's why we're looking to, through the structure review, rather than having the coordinator posts, we replace those with senior coordinator posts.
Right. If you go for that, I'm looking at the amount of staff we have, and we have 101 office and support staff. Does support staff include management, or it does?
Yep.
It seems that it's awful high when we've only got 200 and odd. I think it's 200 and odd workforce. It seems a lot to have a backup for, almost 2 to 1.
The support staff also include the 31 apprentices within that number, and there's 70 staff, which covers assistant supervisors, supervisors, technical inspectors, and office staff as well. So there is people out there operational, like technical inspectors who are doing the inspections, that are included in that number as well.
Thanks. I think that's me for now.
Okay, Councillor Robertson. I think you're on mute, Councillor Robertson.
Can you hear me now, Convener?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I do apologise. I'm just thinking, Mr. Garner, that it's a very comprehensive report, but in respect of the question that was posed to you with Councillor Binney, and she was talking about disabled adoptions, can I ask how many houses in respect of the adoptions were completed in 24? Because my understanding is that there's an increased demand for adoptions.
The figures that were provided in the report are down by 30%. Councillor Robertson, the actual number of adoptions that have been completed in that period of time. Now, this ranges from gully showers, walk-in showers, overbath showers, also includes like handrails, ramps, whatever. So in that figure in total, there's been 750 repairs undertaken. Now, I got an updated report prior to coming along this morning, and the outstanding main ones that fall under the gully showers, the walk-in showers, which maybe hold up tenants being released from the hospital, were actually down to 68. So it's a real positive trend that's continued there. So overbath showers is one that really holds up. We've only got 3 to be fitted at present, so that's a real positive approach.
Thank you. And can I ask a follow-on question, please? It's in relation to what you said, Mr. Garner, about the bolt-on skills. And I'm just wondering, we're basically saying that staff have been trained up to do other jobs to try and deal with the situation with what we're doing at the moment. But I'm just wondering, if that's the situation, how does that impact on the staffing at the moment? And if that's the case, in other words, if the staff are doing that, will that impact the staff levels long term if we can't get the new recruits that we require over the term?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Robertson. So the plan would be that we would provide in-house training for our trades teams. So I say the example that I gave there within the report was, we would train a joiner up to do basic plumbing skills and vice versa. Now, that said, I wouldn't expect a plumber to come in and start hanging doors. It would be basic, very much basic skills. I can assure you of that. But again, the real winner out of this is the tenant. So, for example, if you can imagine a tenant has a leaking pipe under their bath. At present, as it stands, a joiner would need to come out, take the skirting off, take the bath panel off, for the plumber to come in and put in carry out the repair. Following that, the joiner would have to come back out and then reattach the panel and the skirting. So really, it's a far more efficient way of operating the service, and ultimately, say the tenant is the real winner, because it would allow us to carry out repairs in a much quicker period of time.
Well, I would question that because there's a level of competency required here to do some of the jobs you've just highlighted. I have been involved in the building game for a long period of time, and I've seen works carried out by tradespeople who are supposed to be competent when they were doing that. So if our staff levels are short, how do we make sure the people we're sending in to do these jobs can do a job properly?
Well, it goes back to the training element.
Yes.
And we would ensure that the training that I mentioned is in place, and obviously we would only ask the tradesperson to carry out that role once they're fully trained in that task.
Yeah. So, and will there be a time scale for to actually say that somebody's competent to do the job? So, how do we train them up in that respect?
Within Shira Depot, where BMD are based, Councillor Robertson, we are going to set up a mock situation where, what Douglas explained, removing and refitting bath panels, small plaster repairs, touch-up painting. We're going to set that up, and that's going to be coordinated by our CDM coordinator, John Boyd, who's going to run that programme. And there will be an evaluation of each employee going through that, and they'll have to pass the relevant skills to then be sent out to carry out that skill within a tenant's home. So they'll be evaluated within that. We expect that process for the completion of the repairs team to take 3 to 6 months. We will give trades opportunities to reset if they haven't passed that before they actually go out.
Is there any chance they get reports within the next year to say how that is actually progressing?
Yeah, that'll be no problem. Yes,
that's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Robertson. I'll just bring Mr. Benny at this point before we go to Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Provost. And I just wanted to reassure Councillor Robertson that this is a approach that's been adopted by a number of other BMD type operations across Scotland. It was actually the trade unions that came to us with the approach being taken by Fife Council. So this is not uncharted territory. This is relatively standard approach, and I think I've got full confidence in Robert and the team doing rigorous training to make sure that only once people have fully met their criteria that they're allowed to go out and undertake these jobs. But also that everything we're doing here will be under review. If we find situations where operatives need to keep going back to touch something up that's been done, clearly that's not going to have worked. But I think the general approach, like Douglas says, is correcting things first time, first visit, better for tenants.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to say, I totally agree with the get it right first time approach, rather than going back 2 or 3 times. And so is it definitely going to happen, the bolt-on skills? Is there a timeline for that actually being implemented?
So the grading panel, I understand, is meeting this week, Provost, and just following that, as Robert indicated, we would look to start the training early next year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Provost. Thank you very much. A few questions. First of all, I'd just like to say, similar to the last report, I'm very pleased about the positive and forward-looking approach that it's having with the BMD, because we obviously have to adapt and change, and it really is encouraging. And certainly my recent experience with housing repairs has been very positive with regard to constituents. My first question really is, I'm pleased as well with the number of new apprentices, and I think that's part of the way forward, and it creates jobs for school leavers and different things. So that's very, very positive indeed. With regard to existing apprentices, how long is the apprenticeship normally for the average trade, and how good are we retaining previous apprentices that have been working with Falkirk Council? That's my first question. Thanks.
Currently, the apprentices getting retained, we're probably at the 60% mark, Councillor Flynn. The main reason when we're carrying out our exit interviews, around 90% of the apprentices are leaving for financial reasons. And we do hope if the bolt-on skills go through, that'll help ensure that that percentage rises. Some are leaving to go and work with the likes of Link just on our doorstep, probably around if they did go up to the next grade, so that would help that retention within there. As regard on the apprentice numbers, we've actually projected 15 apprentices to take on next year, 6 joiners, 3 plumbers, 3 electricians, a gas engineer, a glazier and a plasterer, showing growth across most of the trades. And then for 2026, we're aiming to bring in 20 apprentices. We've also got a placement programme that has been set up with the local schools, with all schools in Falkirk Council area. We've also got it set up with ETU and with the Inclusion and Wellbeing Unit. And this gives opportunity for a pupil or a client of the Inclusion and Wellbeing or ETU to come along and get taster sessions within all the trades, within admin, or within the homeless section for removal of furniture. This gives them the opportunity to put towards a CV. It gives them a taster in the various apprenticeships that they could maybe apply for going forward. And we've seen it as a big success. Within the Inclusion and Wellbeing, they've struggled to find opportunities for their clients. We've recently brought on 2 general operatives and gave them that opportunity, and they're serving their apprenticeship in there. And through the ETU, we also brought on a member into our team who's really thrived and is going forward for a full-time position at the end of this month.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very positive indeed, and really good to hear, actually. Moving on to the question of regrading and bringing, if you like, salaries up to the industry average. Are there going to be different grades within each, say a joiner, plumber or whatever, and how is there obviously is an element of risk because it's going to increase your costs and put pressure on your own budgets. How are you going to prevent, increased costs without increased efficiency?
Currently, within building maintenance, there is various different grades at different posts. Our approved electricians and gas engineers are different grades from our joiners, plumbers, plasterers, slaters. We also have skilled operatives and general operatives. So we have that approach at present. Within the report Douglas presented, it also details down that all the costs to the introducing the bolt-on skills will be currently met within the establishment at present, so there'll be no increase request for any spend in implementing the bolt-on skills.
Well, that's good. Thank you very much. That's very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, Provost.
Thanks, Councillor Flynn. We'll now go to Councillor Forrest.
Aye, thank you, Provost. Thank you for that report. I'm really quite pleased about the bolt-on skills. I, like most of the other members, have had tenants complaining that they've called in to have a repair done, and the operatives arrived. Oh, I can't do that because I've got to get this done first. So the bolt-on skills, I think, will be much better. It'll be one call, and hopefully it will go through without any return journeys. But can the bolt-on skills be added to the apprentices' qualifications in the form of SVQs? And further to that, the report shows that the services workforce averages 47 years. 47 years, some people are a wee bit unwilling to change things. Are you finding that the workforce is willing to carry out the bolt-on skills? And personally, I've always found that people are 47, youngsters, are much more willing, and they're a great benefit rather than a risk, because obviously they've got better experience. Can you enlighten us a wee bit to some of those things?
With regards the apprentices and the bolt-on skills, a lot of the college courses that where apprentices attend, they do attribute various aspects of other trades within the training, but BMD are going to introduce for our apprentice programme that with the bolt-on skills, we're going to put the apprentices, we'll give them taster sessions with the various other trades. To give a current example for that, in Bonnybridge, we have our capital site just across from Bonnybridge Golf Course, and we're doing complex roofing work there. So again, part of the joiner skills test for completion of their apprenticeship is to learn about the different cuts of a roof. So we're putting all the apprentice joiners, we've got 10 at present, they're going through and they're all getting to work alongside the slater for a month on these roofs and learn about the different cuts. So we're going to put that forward within our apprentice programme to give potentially the plumbers going along with the joiners for 4 weeks, the plasterers to go along with maybe the painters to learn a bit. So there is going to be cross training within the apprenticeship as apprentices fill in their portfolio as they go along, and we see this as an important addition to that portfolio, adding that in. From there, could I ask you just to repeat your second question? Sorry, Councillor Forrest.
It was more, are you finding the average age is 47 years? Yes. Are you finding a willingness to change, to add in these bolt-on skills? I've always found that they're pretty willing, but you may find different.
We've just recently completed the follow-up sessions with all the employees, and it was overwhelming positivity that the bolt-on skills are going to grading. The employees are really keen, they enjoy working with the council, and they see this as they're going to be able to provide a better service to the tenant. So we've had no negativity around the bolt-on skills. It was the trade unions that really were promoting it through their members. Obviously, they know colleagues that work in West Lothian, they work in Fife, East Ayrshire, and I was actually down at East Ayrshire with the trade unions previously to look at the bolt-on skills that they had introduced, and it was very positive coming across for the employees there to the trade unions. So again, we have done a bit of background work on this, and through our improvement groups has been really positive, where a lot of the trades, they've got a basic knowledge of skills that they've gathered over the years, not just solely with Falkirk Council, but obviously from the private sector. So there's great opportunity to tap into that, but to ensure we get it right, having the training programme behind that. But no, they're really up for
it. That sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Forrest. We'll go to Councillor Binney next.
Thank you, Professor. I've just got a wee question, actually. It's about staff absence. I hear this quite a lot, well, not an awful lot in my community, but I do hear it quite often. So I take it when staff are off, these employees might have a forward work plan. And if a tradesman doesn't turn up because obviously he's sick, do we have a process of notifying the resident immediately? We know that, because I think that's really important, and we advise them maybe when the repair will be carried out, or say that it might not be for a couple of weeks, because we all know, like, what resident have been waiting quite a long time in the repair. If that happens, I get a bit disappointed. So I was just really wondering about the process. Thank you.
Yes, we do have a process that our schedulers contact the tenants once they're made aware if an employee phones in sick in the morning. Obviously, some trades can have 6 to 8 jobs. We do try and reschedule the other employees, so potentially they can still get that visit, but depending on the sickness level, obviously we're running at 10%, which is high. There is a number of repairs have to be rescheduled. So, yeah, the schedulers do reschedule the work for MD at phone and sick.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you very much, Councillor Binney. We'll now go to Councillor Anslow.
Thank you, Provost. My concern is regarding the third-party contractors. I note in the report that you're going to be increasingly have more use of them. My concern is where they dovetail. For instance, someone needs a new door. We come out and take the door away, but then the third-party contractors come and visit and replace it. Now, I've had a number over the years, constituents that say this doesn't always marry up quite easily and they're having to wait. Going forward, how's that gap going to be mitigated, along with the fact that I'm happy to see we're going down the bolt-on for our own employees. I wish Network Rail would take your example, or at least the unions. How are we going to manage to get the third-party contractors more married up when there's a crossover of jobs?
Thanks, Councillor Anslow. As highlighted within the paper, because we are taking such a proactive position with regards to recruiting apprentices, there's an anticipation that our reliance on third parties would actually reduce over the medium term. But you make a valid point there, and we will still inevitably require to work alongside the private sector. And I guess the key to it is good contract management, regular meetings with the contractor. And if we do have any concerns, highlight that at an early stage, because ultimately we don't want the tenant to suffer from that. So I guess the answer to the question is really good contract management, and through the structure that we're looking to implement, including the improved management structure, then I have a confidence that those meetings will be had on time and any issues will be raised. It will be raised at an early date.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thanks, Councillor Anslow. We'll now go to Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Convener. We've got a couple of questions. First one, just we daft one at 4.5 within the report. We've identified an annual budget spend reduction of £2.8 million. Can I just ask how that underspend was utilised? Was it just subsumed into the budget? Was it actually used? Is it money that we can be looking to be putting into this year's budget?
That was the staffing cost reduction. That was due to a number of vacant positions, Councillor McCabe, and there was an increased spend on utilising service providers on the multi-frame void framework. So that's where that spend went from that. There was about 80 vacant posts taken away for the establishment report.
I understand how the saving was made, Robert. I'm just wondering, did you say that? I didn't quite catch that. Are you saying that you then utilised that for something else?
Yeah, there was around 80 vacant trade posts.
Aye.
So BMD couldn't carry out that work. We tried advertising to recruit and whatever because of the vibrant private sector and the skill shortage out there. We had to use a framework for multi-trade void work. So the reduction in that budget was then met with an increased spend on the service provider usage.
Okay.
To get these repairs carried out, which would normally be carried out by BMD.
Okay, I think I'm getting that. Thanks. Moving on to 5.2, the average re-let time down from 111 days to 55 days, actually halving it, which is good. Can you just expand on that paragraph 5.2? we appear to have come up with a revised void standard on a test of concept. What do you mean by that? What is the revised standard that we're looking at? And the fact that you've identified this test of concept, you intend rolling that out further. What does that mean? What difference would I see going into a void before we introduce this concept to what it is now?
The test of concept was introduced because of the housing crisis, and the void lettable standard was reviewed. Some of the main differences you would see in the void lettable standard is a significant reduction in void decoration of the property. The properties were brought up to an enhanced standard. It usually involved the properties all to be wallpaper stripped and then woodwork glossed and walls emulsioned, that kind of stuff. So that is where probably the biggest reduction you would see. Properties weren't decorated to a standard, an enhanced standard.
Okay, thanks. I now move on to paragraphs 5.8, 5.9, talking about kitchens and bathrooms here. Is this indicating a move more towards the private sector here, where BMD, the closing line on that is BMD will then concentrate on priorities of repair and turnaround of voids? Are BMD stepping away from kitchens and bathrooms?
Probably going back pre-COVID, BMD had around 350 trade employees. As it stands today, we're down to 195, and we've centralised our teams on mainly the repairs and maintenance, the voids programme and the capital programme. A lot of the additional capital work that was here, kitchens, bathrooms, some of the roofing and rough casting work, BMD no longer carry out because of the reduction in staff. We used to have our own teams that worked on that work, but again, we've lost a lot of these trades to the private sector and the skill shortage out there with retirals or whatever.
So is that the framework agreement you're talking about there, Robert? Yeah.
For
both kitchens and bathrooms, yeah.
Yeah, there's a framework out there. There was a framework put in the 1st of April 2023 for the fitment of kitchens and bathrooms.
So that's still maintained within your budget, but rather than BD being directly involved, it goes to the private sector?
It's a housing asset management team that run the kitchen fitment now. That budget is not attributed to BMD anymore because that's out with. And again, they've brought, with the introduction of that framework, BMD led the framework and we highlighted it, but housing have taken the kitchen part back and the bathrooms are going to follow suit. And that was due to the number of kitchens that were outstanding, and BMD were mainly acting as a third party where housing could just go direct. So that's now in place and there's no backlog in kitchens now.
No, it's good. It's good. It clarifies it a wee bit in my own mind there. Paragraph 6.4, we have highlighted the current service structure is not fit for the future, no longer offers the best delivery model. I think, you know, the evidence would support that. We then move to 6.16, where we talk about the ARC report and the service review. Can I just ask why this hasn't happened already? Everything contained within paragraph 6.16. It just seems, I'm aware that, you know, we've had some issues with BMD repairs and things like that. It seems as if it should have maybe been introduced a wee bit earlier. Can I just ask why we seem to be lagging behind a wee bit? I appreciate we're now going to do it, but I would have thought, you know, we could have made these changes a wee bit earlier.
I I'm not sure, Councillor McCabe, if I could, to be perfectly honest with you. You recall that BMD transferred over to police services in 2023. So, you know, I think it may have taken a little bit longer than we would all have liked, but I think it is right that we get it right. And I would like it to take if it takes a little bit longer to get it right, then I think that's a good step forward, rather than rushing something through that, you know, only 50% is right and we have to, you know, reconsider the other half. So whilst it perhaps took a little bit longer than you'd have liked, I'm confident through the review that we've carried out, through the engagement with staff, etc., we do have something that's fit for purpose, not for the next 2-3 years, but for the long term.
Thanks, Douglas. Just to, I suppose, reinforce my my concern, a wee bit of concern there, is if we go to the conclusions of the report 9.2, we are following the service review. You know, we are looking to address the issues. Can I ask, might be a wee bit pie in the sky, but when will we see these changes actually implemented? I mean, I'm going to recommend to my colleagues here, we should probably be looking for something coming back to us probably within, I don't stretch it too much, we're saying 3 months, but maybe something like 6 months, if we could have something to come back, just to give us an indication, almost a performance indicators type of situation, where we see how these changes are actually being implemented. Yeah. Any idea when we should be up and running?
As I explained to the Provost, Councillor McCabe, there are a series of changes that have to be implemented. I would anticipate, I mentioned a change that's coming in October next year. I would like that to be the very last change that we're bringing in. So obviously there's a recruitment drive we have to carry out. There's a training exercise that we have to carry out for our trades teams. So time-wise, I would suggest or propose to committee that, you know, 12 months from now would be appropriate.
I'm going to counter that, Provost. Game of poker here. I want it back in 6 months. No, I appreciate what you're saying, Douglas, but I think, I mean, it was in December of last year where we were looking for an updated report. We've got it now. I don't want to be waiting, you know, that'd be 2 years down the line. All I'm looking for is almost a kind of halfway indicator, you know, to say a wee kind of progress report where you are on that, if you like, you know. That's where I'm coming from that. But just move on with just a wee final point. It's contained within 8.5. Trade staff being relocated to focus on turnaround of voids. With a temporary suspension of non-emergency repairs, this may lead to an increased number of repair requests. Is that what you're envisaging? And if so, does it present as a problem in the future?
There's been a suspension in non-emergency repairs for joiners, plumbers, electricians, plasterers. They're the main trades that there's been a suspension on. There hasn't been a suspension on the slaters, the brickworks, so they're still going on for the non-emergencies. What we have seen is there's been an increase in emergency repairs within there. Again, probably a non-emergency, to give an example, maybe a tenant's got a leak under a kitchen sink, so you couldn't expect a person maybe wait 3 months for that. So some of these are getting moved forward to be caught as an emergency. So we are coping with the demand of the increase in emergencies at present. That's not any issue. The only thing that we may have a concern about is when we have the relaunch of all repairs, we might get a bit of a backlog there coming in for these trades.
That's the question I'm asking, Robert. Yeah. Is that, you know, you think that's going to happen? Are you comfortable enough that you're going to be able to manage that?
Yeah. Again, until you see what that backlog is. But indication is that with the increase on the emergencies, we're not getting what I would say a significant increase in volume of people saying, well, I'm waiting on this, I'm waiting on that, I'm waiting, whatever. So I do think we'll be able to cope with it. It will be, we do hope to have a soft approach to that and then launch into that. by that time, we hope to have the void numbers down, which will give us the additional resource to put back on to manage the non-emergency repairs recommencing.
Smashing. Okay, thanks, gents. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks very much. Councillor Kelly.
Again. At 5.1, it states that Falkirk has seen a growing number of temporary accommodations increase and are routinely breaching the unsuitable accommodation. Are all these actually in Falkirk, or is people coming from outside Falkirk that is banging up this list?
Yeah. I would, yeah.
Okay, Karen, would you like to take that?
Yes, I will, Provost, thank you. That's certainly more of a housing question. So the temporary accommodation we're using, we have reported previously, and we've done a briefing for members on the homeless situation within Falkirk. And we have seen an increase in homelessness across the Falkirk area, which in part is why we have put the pause on temporary repairs, non-emergency repairs, to try and make sure we can do as quick a turnaround of our void properties as possible. Your specific question, Councillor Kelly, we are seeing a mixture. So there will be a number of residents within the Falkirk area who are homeless, but the legislation changed, which does allow homeless individuals from other council areas to now apply for housing within the Falkirk area, even if they have no connection to the Falkirk area. So we have seen an increase in that as well, which will be impacting on our homelessness numbers. That in turn means that we've put more properties into homelessness accommodation, and we're also having to use some of our B&B accommodation, which we've never had to before. But we're working very closely with our colleagues in BMD. We're working right across our housing teams to try and address that as best that we possibly can. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Can I ask, can we get some sort of position on how many of these people are from outside Falkirk, how many are within the Falkirk area? Can you break that down? I don't mean right now.
Yeah, I don't have it right now, Councillor Kelly, but certainly we are looking as well at the impact, for example, that the change to pausing non-emergency repairs has had on our homelessness. So we're doing some stats on that. I will look to see if we can also build that statistic into that information for members. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'd just like to ask a question on basically the privatisation of the stores. Generally at budget time, we would say it was, for example, 2 crossing patrol people were going to be removed. It would come up for a decision to be taken. And do we want to keep them? Do we not want to do them, to take them, or do we want to look at EPIAs? But in this case, we're making a huge decision to privatise the stores. And I'm just wondering how can that be classed as operational? And it's not coming to the executive for a decision.
So, as I covered within the paper, Provost, we have spoken with members within the stores, and I have given them my commitment that we would do our very best if they wanted to stay within the BMD to try and find them a post suitable to them. Hopefully, one will be available. An alternative option is VS, and I know that there are some members of staff within the stores team that have already expressed an interest of that. But again, to get to your question, the stores doesn't directly impact the public. There is no change to any service as far as the public is concerned. It's very much an operational matter, and in line with the standing orders, it's a management decision that's been made on the back of a recommendation from an external advisor.
Okay, so I don't know the questions. So
off the back of that, how many people in stores will be affected if this goes ahead?
Yeah, we have 10 employees within the stores section.
Okay, so it's a comprehensive report, again, a positive report showing the direction of travel, but I would say it's a Councillor Ansell, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Provost. It's just I've got a couple of quick questions around voids, if I may.
Okay.
There's basically two parts. The first part being, do we know how many numbers of voids have gone back out to let before the repairs have been completed?
Who would that be? Yourself, Robert?
Yeah. Prior to any of the voids going back out to let, Councillor Ansell, all voids are brought up to the void lettable standard. There's some legislative work that has to be done, like of EICRs, asbestos surveys. All that work is carried out under repairs before a tenant gets that. There may be some repairs when let, or potentially a new incoming tenant may want to discuss their kitchen design if they're going forward for a new kitchen that suits their layout going forward, maybe for their appliances. So all repairs are carried out to meet the void lettable standard prior to a tenant going into the property.
Thank you for that. The second part of that is, if you've let someone, how do you know that a void has actually had its external fabric contract completed? And if it hasn't worked because it's been in void and then it's let, how is that then captured, especially if that program's moved on to another area?
We do get that with some of the buybacks properties that come into the service and whatever. And what usually happens, there's an appraisal done, and then we get an architect's instruction maybe to one of the other capital programme, and they get added in, and we would maybe put a satellite squad that will just move out to that to carry out the repair. That may be a new roof, new roof casting. So it would be caught within the housing investment programme through the capital there. That would get added in there, Councillor Ansell.
Thank you, Robert. My final point is, I've been trying to get hold of for a year, basically, site of the plan. And I know they're ongoing in my area of Carnshore at the moment, with Denny and Denny Lonehead having been completed. Is there any list that can tell the councillors what area they're going to be in for a period of time, when and where?
Okay, I think Salvage wants to come in.
Yes, thank you, Provost. Provost, there is a report coming to Council in January, and there's two reports. There's one on the housing revenue account, but in response to Councillor Ansell's question, there's also one on the housing investment programme, and that report will set out the most up-to-date proposals in terms of the new build sites that Councillor Ansell is referring to. So I hope that helps to answer that question.
It does, Karen, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Ansell. We'll go for the final question to Councillor Robertson.
There isn't much a question, Provost, but thank you very much. I thought you were going to tie up there before Anne come in. Just basically to say thank you very much for the staff producing such a comprehensive report, and I'm looking forward to any reports coming forward in the future. But I would like to personally apologise to everyone here today. I think it may have been noted that I'm popping in and out here, but I've got some personal issues that I've been trying to deal with, so I do apologise. Thank you.
No problem, Councillor Robertson. So, a positive report. I think there's a lot in it. There's a lot of change coming. And it is I personally see it as an interim report transitioning towards the change that BMD need. And that's going to take some time to implement these at different stages. Adaptations was one, other things, the stores will be another one. All these changes need to come a bit at a time before we get to the stage where we feel BMD's had sufficient change. So other things that might come along is that we'd like to see in a future report is sort of customer satisfaction. I don't know if you'd be doing that. How do you measure success? By speaking to the customers. Another thing was mentioned at one time was perhaps when we're talking about the contact centre, sending a text message out, or whoever sends a text message out to somebody to say we won't be there today, just as you touched on, Robert. Is that communication with people, just to as my wife has said before, you know, if somebody's coming to deliver a washing machine and can't do it, just tell me, you know, I'll be there the next day or whatever. But just keep me informed. So I think we've talked about that before. It's that communications piece and the get it right first time approach where you get there and we've got everything we need. We don't need to revisit. And I think the bolt-on skills will bring a big significant change to that. And I'd like to thank everybody for the hard work that's went on. I know there's been an awful lot of hard work, and I know you'll be tearing your hair out trying to get there and take people with you as well. And I know you personally, Douglas, have been very keen to do that, bring everybody along, and I think succeeded in doing that. So what we'd be asking for, in the hope the Scrutiny Committee agrees, is for a further report to come forward in a year's time. Everybody happy enough?
Agreed.
Agreed, okay. So a year's time. So thanks everybody for coming along. Thanks for your contribution. That closes the Scrutiny Committee meeting. Thank you.